And call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
City Attorney Doctor,
Here.
Interim City Manager Burton,
Here.
Commissioner Dean,
Here.
Commissioner Logan,
Here.
Commissioner Reed,
Here.
Commissioner Shertliff,
Here.
Call this meeting to order. I'm somewhere else. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
give me just a moment.
City Attorney Doctor. Here.
Interim City Manager. Sorry about that. We had an echo. Where was I? Commissioner Shertliff.
Here.
Thank you, Commissioner Shertliff. And for the record, Mayor Collins is excused.
Great. I just want to make one note for the public that's here. We are going to move agenda item 8, or what was previously, agenda item 8 to right after the HCC recommendations. So it will go from 8 to 5 and push everything down. Okay, first, are there any commission comments or questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to agenda item number 3, committee discussion. I believe Mark Young is going to introduce this and then pass it off, or maybe David Kanapke, Director Kanapke, and then we'll pass it off to the non-motorized Transportation Advisory Committee, Director Kanapke.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners. The non-motorized committee is here tonight to give you some recommendations that they have for this upcoming fiscal year. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Wilbur and Greg, Chair and Secretary of the.
Go ahead, gentlemen.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Commissioner Pro Tem Emily Dean. We have been working diligently the last year on non-motorized transportation activity in Helena, focusing on 2 major areas of concern. One is the Centennial Trail Bridge over Henderson. Henderson, if you've driven it or ridden your bike over it or walked across on the designated trail, you'll know that it's got a blind spot. When you get down on the actual roadway and look up, there's a curve and a hill that goes under that BNSF viaduct. And it's virtually impossible for riding a bicycle coming down either the east side or the west side to Henderson to see what the vehicles are coming down that hill. And vice versa, I'm sure the vehicles have a hard time too. And so we've made some improvements through the years, one of which was putting flashers there at the crossing, which has helped tremendously in reducing the risk of bike automobile accidents. But we really need to address the major problem, which is those steep slopes, that bottom of the hill coming down Henderson are impossible to ever fix. I mean, we can't change that geography, but we could put a bridge across the top, a pedestrian, bicycle, and handicapped accessible route that would get people across. And so that's one of our priorities, is to complete and put a hard surface on Centennial Trail west to Joslyn Street. At Joslyn, it's paved again and going all the way out to Montana Wild on hard surface. Well, if you're at all handicapped and you have a walker, the current trail with sand aggregate mix is impossible for people with electric wheelchairs, walkers, anything other than 2 able-bodied feet. And so we need to hard surface it in both all the way from the transfer station around across Benton and down, and we plotted with the help of Montana Rail Link, David and myself and Mark Young walked it with surveyors. We know where the trail needs to go to avoid the railroad property per se. Part of it would end up on the public city land at Barney Park and would connect with the existing, now it's aggregate trail. But we need to hard surface that whole trail, put a bridge in over Henderson. And that's our recommendation. We've even looked at ARPA funding for a bridge. We made contact with nonprofit Prickly Pear Land Trust who could apply for ARPA funds for that and for the bridge. And so that's really our top priority. We've been working on this issue ever since I've been on the NIMTAC, the Non-Motorized Advisory Commission, since before David was on contact with us, before Mark Young. So that's our top priority. Our second top priority is what's called safe routes to schools. You know, we have a lot of schools in Helena that have no safe route. We did a walk audit on Broadwater Elementary on the lower west side. If you've never been over there, it's it only has one accessible intersection corner. The rest of them are not. Hollins, which crosses on the south side of Broadwater Elementary, gets a lot of commuter traffic, both from people dropping off children at school and from neighborhood traffic, because it's a feeder to Benton for people going to work. Maybe work on the east side or downtown Helena or the north side. They go out that way, either to drive north on Benton or south. And so on the north side of Broadwater Elementary, it's Piosta, which is a second feeder. Gets a lot of traffic off of Benton going to Carroll College. I mean, so it's Broadwater is a school, elementary school, that has only, I think it's 1 or 2 accessible crossings. The rest of them on Hollins on the west side of Broadwater is curbed and ends up on the very next block on dirt. On lawns, there's no sidewalk. And the same thing on the Piosta side. It seems that it ends right there at that school playground. That's one of the safe routes. And we've looked at Night Street. We've recommended sidewalks along Night because all those middle school kids walk in the street. And if you've ever been up there at the time when the school's in session, you know that that's an accident waiting to happen. And if kids walking in paved streets is not a good idea. So there are a number of those safe streets projects that we've looked at, and we really would like you to take a look at our recommendations. We've sent them out before. I can leave a copy with Danae today and make copies and get to you if you want hard copies. But those are the focus of our primary concerns. And I'd be glad, Greg, to answer any questions you have about it. But that's all, you know, we don't have any. The high dollar fund is one where we think ARPA could help out with the grant program. And we've worked with the Montana National Guard. We've had a commitment from the previous commander, which we would try to get renewed. He put a proposal into the Pentagon to assist us in getting across Henderson. Either providing some engineering or even providing work by the troops to help get that crossing built, meaning the bridge. So.
Thank
those are
you.
the two primary.
Yes, Commissioner Reed.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. A question, I'm not sure if it's for you or for Parks and Recreation, but we had a project on internal listed as Centennial Trail at 120,000 in the original requests for internal. Is this the same project as what's being recommended by MTech as a priority, or is that a different project?
Mayor Pro Tem Commission, that we put in that money, trying to work with the street department, and have that chunk of money as maybe a grant match. But it was kind of for the paving from Henderson to Centennial Park, and paving from Benton West to Henderson. It didn't really include the actual bridge. So it was more, there was the realignment of the Centennial Trail out of the railroad bed towards Barney Park in that area. So that's what it was for.
So if I'm understanding correctly, it's part of what they're talking about, but not the entire.
Yeah, and kind of the intent in my mind was to have that as a chunk of money that we could also use for a grant match for the recreational trails grant, and then use that money for a match to do more.
Thank you.
Let's go Director Knopke and then we'll come to Commissioner Logan.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Just to follow up on that, part of the reason why that money hasn't been expended as of yet is we're still waiting for the signed copy back from the NSF for the easement that allows us to put the trail on basically the south side of the property.
Commissioner Logan.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I was planning on saying this a little later in the meeting, but I think it's probably a good opportunity to do so now. I've sort of, maybe gotten a little introspective over the last couple weeks, month or so relative to ARPA. I think we've had a lot of good presentation and a lot of information. And we've seen the internal requests that have been made, and they're necessary, and they're serious, and there's a lot. And early on, when I think when Helen's first started hearing about the term ARPA, one of the things I advocated for was wastewater type spending on that. And I think Director Leland has leveraged about all that he can relative to ARPA and other funding sources, and the capacity to do the work, to pull it off in the time that we're given. And so we've had those requests, and we've had the internal requests. We're starting now to consider the external, but I kind of beat myself up a little bit about not really advocating for the above ground infrastructure, which there's a great deal of need. I think we're all aware of that, whether it's streets or sidewalks or whatever. So as I'm going through this spreadsheet that we were given today, it's funny, Centennial Trail came up in my head, largely because we got a lot of emails about it when ARPA first was introduced to Helena. We should spend some of those funds on Centennial Trail, and it was vague. There was no real, clear plan, but it sounds like there's quite a bit more clarity now. But also, and so Centennial Trail was something that came up as I was considering these external proposals. Why didn't we tackle that? And then just all the other streets and sidewalk infrastructure needs that are out there. So I appreciate NMTAC bringing this and Safe Routes to School, bringing those to light. And now I can go home and beat myself up a little bit more. So,
Thank you, Commissioner Logan. Director Kanopy, remind me, during the FY 23 budget process, we discussed pretty extensively the Henderson Bridge. We ended up making an amendment to put the rapid flashing beacons in because we didn't have a firm commitment from BNSF yet. Montana Rail Link before that. I think it was, we were quoted with, I think, $75,000 for a bridge. Can you correct me?
Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners. I don't remember where the 75 came from, but the reason that we opted for the rapid flash beacons was at that time in the budget cycle, we didn't even have to draft the agreement. So, fast forward to today, we have received the agreement. Turn was reviewed. It's been back in BNSF's hands. So when we get that document allows us to move that trail. And part of the agreement is when we improve a portion of the trail, we have to obliterate the existing trail, which was not. So, you know, that new trail is typical shared use path, 10-foot wide with shoulders. But the railroad did put in an additional stipulation for defense. So that does increase the cost of the trail.
Yeah.
Put in, but it doesn't deter us because where the trail is now is good. But where we kind of penciled it out with the railroad, I think it's going to be a lot better trail for everybody. And it gets the pedestrians part of the tracks, which is amazing.
Okay, great. That's helpful. Well, thank you. We appreciate you coming. Yes, sir.
Just a question, when I mentioned the use of ARPA funds, Commissioner Logan, it's not for the city. We're asking a nonprofit to apply on the solicitation that we got and all the nonprofits got for ARPA funds. So we're not suggesting opposing underground use of ARPA at all. We're simply suggesting that this use of ARPA through the grant process to nonprofits is what we would like to see happen.
Great. Thank you.
fair enough. Thank you.
All right, we will move on to our next agenda item, a report from Helena Citizens Council, Mr. Andrew.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners. I'll be very short. We're having our regular HCC meeting this evening, but what we've been doing, we just finished revisions to our policies and procedures, and tonight we're having a discussion for a thorough review of the bylaws. It's taken some time to do that. We're getting those things done. I think the council's also gone through, we've done a list of various priorities and issues in our districts, and we forwarded those on, I think, to the mayor and the commission.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the commission?
Just might make a comment. Thank you, Mr. Andrew. And I would just share with everyone, if they don't know this, there are actually two John Andrews.
That's what I was just got very confused for a second. I thought that.
So if you get an email from John Andrew of the HCC, you may want to do a little further digging as to.
And we are trying to explain further. John E. Andrew is generally known as John Andrew, and I will either be John R. or JR.
Okay. Thank you.
And if you're desperate, I'm also known as Dirtball. So
We appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for the clarification. All right, so we will now move to the agenda item that we had moved before, litigation strategy. I will defer to the city manager and city attorney. Normally, we'll let you introduce the item and we'll take public comment and then discuss maybe instead of moving every member of the public out of the room. If that's at the recommendation of the city attorney, maybe we can just ask the commissioners to step into the commission office. So we don't cause any issues for all the people who have joined us today.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners, well, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, City Attorney Becky Doctor. I do recommend that we close the meeting at this time for litigation strategy pursuant to the allowance under statute to do so for litigation strategy when the discussion in front of the public might affect litigation strategy. Murray Warhank is here as well, and so I think there would be just a few of us that would need to move, and we could allow that to happen outside the public here. It should take, I suspect, just 10 minutes, and so it won't be a long discussion, but I do recommend that's what we do.
City Manager?
Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, yeah, I'd recommend that we take a break for 10 or 15 minutes and that the commission reconvene at the commission office and have a brief discussion, update you on where we're at.
Okay, we will move into closed session and the commission will be back momentarily.
Good to see you, Jen.
It is.
meeting back up. Before we go to public comment, city attorney, do you want to make any final notes?
Sure, thank you. Just for the record, we discussed, our discussion was about litigation strategy for both the Treasure State case and the RGB Investments case. There were no decisions made, and we solely talked about matters that were involved with litigation. So thank you.
So at this point, we will open it up to public comment. Is there any public comment? Yes, go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, on the litigation strategy.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, sorry, just on litigation strategy.
Oh, just on litigation.
Yes, okay. In that case, we will go ahead and move on to our next agenda item, the city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Commissioners, the Public Works Director handed out a notice of standard MCL violation. So I'd like to, if I may, turn it over to Ryan to explain what this is and what's going on.
Great, Director Leland.
Mayor Pro Tem, unfortunately, we have a violation of the maximum contaminant level for one of our drinking water standards. That is a disinfection byproduct. There's two different that we sample for. And one of them, the HA5, is the haloacetic acid, which is a long-term chronic contaminant. It is not acute, it's long-term, and how they establish the MCLs typically, it is over 30 to 50 years of annual or each day drinking an amount of water. They actually haven't had enough time to study these because it's only been in effect for us to be able to study this for 20 years. I was actually the first manager of this rule when I was at DEQ, so it hasn't been around that long. So we don't have anything. So it was established more on laboratory experiments, but it is a disinfection. It's a byproduct of chlorine reacting to organics in the water. And it is an average that comes around in this one quarter. We were above it because of a spike that we had. And we are still looking at the exact reason that it happened. But talking with DEQ, we think it was because of a major water main break that allowed some of the organics to get into the water and then reacted with the chlorine, and we had a spike. It is going down, and we are doing flushing and trying to figure it all out, but the spike has dropped, and this is our first violation of it ever. And it has only been in one quarter, and it's only in one section down around Woodland Dunbar. That is the area that we had the contamination. Every other place in the city of Helena has very low levels. But with it, if you have one of your sites, one of the 4 sites around, based on how old the water is, we have to have a letter of violation to everyone and a notice to go out. So working with DEQ and the state of Montana, this is our requirement to be able to notify everyone in the area. We have it online. It is on Be Heard. They can go there, direct them to that website. It is up right now to be able to look at the information, ask questions, and so that we can give them anything. Plus, we have this that has gone out to city employees, admin assistants, and everyone to be able to answer any questions that come up. So I can go on. We've been doing a lot of work. We've been doing a lot of flushing, and the flushing seems to work. So it seems that we're flushing the stagnant water out of the system, and hopefully it will come down below. But we had the one-time spike that is affecting us. So I'll answer questions.
City manager.
And Mayor Pro Tem, Director Lillian, no boiling water.
Good point, Mayor Pro Tem. No boil order, no acute problem that came in. Even with the organics, there is nothing acute. Actually, boiling your water is going to cause worse because you're going to concentrate it because it doesn't go away because of boil order. It's not organic. It's not a virus. It's not a bacteria. It's nothing along that line. So no boil order, no bottled water. There's nothing that is required at this time. And if it did happen to continue over and over, and we find the reason, we will make the changes at the treatment plant. So, but I don't foresee that happening for long term.
Any questions or comments? Yes, Commissioner Logan.
Mayor Pro Tem, thank you. for Director Leland, I believe. I think you touched on this, but remind me again of the efforts that you're going to inform the public and the media.
Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioner, is that we're doing, if I can remember absolutely everything that we do, we have it online. It is the Be Heard Helena. We are doing, we're sending it out in the water bills. We're doing a mailing to be able to go out there. And then we will talk to the press if they feel it's worthy to go out, and we are doing interviews on that. Did I miss anything?
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the commission? Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Any, oh, sure, Commissioner Shurtleff.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you, Director Leland. Is anybody at risk right now? Is there a health risk, or is there, if someone drinks this water, I guess, what would happen to them? Is there any like immediate danger or emergency with this water right now?
Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioner, no, there is no immediate danger to drink this water. That's why we don't have boil order or a bottled water advisory. It is a very long-term chronic contaminant, I guess best way to put it. So it will have to be at very high levels for a very long time. So it'll have to be above the MCL for multiple years. You're looking at 30 years before this will become a problem, and it is only potential to cause a carcinogen. So there is no acute problem. So thank you for the question.
Cool. Thank you, Director Leland. Thank you.
Okay, City Manager.
Mayor Pro Tem, that concludes.
Great. Are there any public comments? Okay. We'll go ahead and move on. The next agenda item is department reports. Excited about this one. National League of Cities and Towns. Actually, National League of Cities, not towns, just cities. Real Institute, City Manager.
I like cities and towns.
Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem, I and commissioners would turn it over to Amanda and then Renee. This is an exciting program. And anyway, I'll let them take it from here.
Actually, I'm gonna swap that on you.
Oh, you are?
Manager department, sorry, Renee's gonna start. And she'll
Okay,
ask
I
me.
got
Sorry
that.
about that.
Whatever. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Commissioners. The National League of Cities solicited applications from municipalities across the nation to participate in their first Racial Equity and Leadership Real Institute. The City of Helena's application was orchestrated by Amanda Opitz, our grants administrator. I would like to invite Amanda to say a few words about the application process.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners. So the process that we went through for the application included a citywide application that was filled out by myself, and then individual applications by our team, which includes HR Director May McMahon, Becky Doctor, our City Attorney, and the Mayor. The main question that was sort of embedded throughout the application was, what steps has our municipality taken on so far on our racial equity journey? I think for communities such as ours that is largely Caucasian, this can seem like it's not an issue, not our issue to take on, but we know that that simply isn't true. And we want to make sure that our community, our municipality, is as fair, equitable, and inclusive to all of our residents as we possibly can be. And so this is a great step forward for us. We're very excited to be participating at the national level and be one of 10 communities, which is fascinating and wonderful for us to be part of that. So pass it back to Renee.
So thank you, Amanda. As Amanda said, we had a super strong application. It was through her efforts that we were granted this opportunity. So thank you so much for that. As she said, we were one of 13 municipalities to be awarded and invited to participate in this program with 3 teams. So we're 3 of 30 in the nation to participate in this inaugural endeavor. So the real team is comprised, as Amanda said, of our mayor, Mayor Collins, city attorney, Becky Doctor, and myself, Renee McMahon, Human Resources Director. So a little bit about the program. The real cohort will participate in 4 in-depth learning sessions between November 14th of this year and August 23rd of 23. We are told that at these meetings, we will be equipped with a shared language for racial equity, provide an understanding of racial equity leadership behaviors, and position leaders to visualize a racially equitable future. We will learn specific methods to engage key stakeholders in advancing racial equity, draft our own vision statement, and learn the importance of determining the root causes of racial inequity. The mayor from across the world, city attorney doctor, and I attended a Real Institute orientation session yesterday afternoon, where we learned about the program's expectations and emphasized our commitment to organizational change with regard to racial equity. Through a word cloud generator, breakout sessions, and group discussion, we discussed values, motivations, roles, and opportunities within our organizations. We were informed about logistics to attend the first real meeting and were assigned homework in preparation for St. Louis, Missouri next month. We also heard of the best barbecue restaurants to visit while we're in St. Louis. I believe I'm speaking on behalf of the City of Helena's Real team, the mayor, city attorney, and I, when I say we're honored and excited to participate in this initiative. I'd like to extend a thank you to interim city manager Burton for bringing this to the fore and encouraging our participation to address and make racial equity a priority for our city. So thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, I'd also like to add that this program was created at the national level about 4 or 5 years ago. And this is to reach out. I can't remember the 13 cities, but they're geographically dispersed throughout the United States. Yeah. And as a part of this too, I think you'll have 2 in-person meetings and 2 Zoom meetings. The in-person meeting expenditures for the 3 members of our team will be picked up at the National League. I think the hotels, the food, air travel, etc. And so then we'll look to this team to report back as they study and learn the issue. Go from there.
Mayor Pro Tem, City Manager, we learned yesterday that although the expectation was that all of our expenses would be paid, they clarified that airfare and travel will not be, that the city will pick up that expense. And we weren't the only ones a little surprised by that. But as one city manager and another commission from another city said, well, we'll figure it out. So it is a priority and we'll figure it out.
Any question or comments from the commission? Commissioner Logan?
Question, the timeline for the program? From
This-
when to when?
Next year, I think about 1 meeting every quarter, if I recall. And so it'll be a 4-meeting year-long process.
Thank you.
Implementation. Forever.
Any other comments or questions? Well, I'll just, before we open to public comment, I'm really glad that we applied, and thank you and congratulations on the successful application. I think this pairs exceptionally well with the efforts that we're undertaking to really be the best employer we can be as well. Something that we budgeted for and made pretty significant investments in the last year. And I think this is one more tool in our toolbox to make sure that we're able to recruit and retain great staff and be the employer that we all want to be. So very excited about that. Excellent. Okay, we will open it up for public comment. Is there any public comment on this issue? Okay, thank you. We will go ahead and move on to the next agenda item. The item that, thank you all who've been patiently waiting for, ARPA. I think we'll, Ms. Opitz is taking this item, I believe, so I will go ahead and pass it off to you, Amanda.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners. So we can drive a little easier. So before you today, we have the ARPA and General Fund Savings Update. This is not going to look altogether different than our last few discussions, with some exceptions. But for the public and those that have not participated in the process, to date, just a quick recap of where we're at. So the City of Helena received a distribution from the U.S. Treasury through ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act, at the amount of $8,487,000. To date, we have allocated $1.8 million for water projects at the 10 Mile Water Treatment Plant, which Commissioner Logan alluded to earlier, which leaves our current allotment for distribution at $6,687,000. So to walk through to date, the discussions that we've had in August and September, early September, we had the CIP review. This provided an opportunity for the commission to get a full understanding of where our capital projects and needs are for the next few years, including year-to-year expenses and those that will be coming down the pike. In the September 21st administrative meeting, the commission requested that we bring forward internal requests from our departments. That list was included in your packet, again today for your reference. And then at our last administrative meeting, we brought forward recommendations from the city manager. Those included items mostly that were ready to go in terms of either having had additional money that was already attributed to those projects, or we had a cost match from the county. We did open up, per the commissioner request, a letter of intent to apply process for external groups. At that time, we left it pretty much wide open. If you have a project and it will benefit the city of Helena, please come. We want to hear your thoughts. And we'll go further into that in this presentation, but that has closed. We are at this commission meeting hoping to provide you with those letters of external intent to apply, and then also per the request of the commission at our last administrative meeting, provide you with some proposed parameters and priorities for the external application process moving forward. So those will be coming later. If all of this goes as planned, we're hoping to have the commission consider bringing internal allocations, perhaps of the contingency, as well as adopting the city manager's priorities and or other internal projects that you would like to move forward on November 7th. At that point, we would have a clearer idea of what money we might have available for external. And that would then prompt the external application process. Of course, all of this is in draft form. This is your process, and you're welcome to move this along, stall, delay, whatever you would like to do, to make sure that you feel completely prepared to move forward with any actions that you might take.
Can I jump in there, Pro Tem? The only item that has been put forward relative to internal that has a sensitive time frame is the $74,000 for the Law and Justice Center, which is owner rent split. The bid we have received the bid. The county has agreed to pay their portion, and they would like to award that bid at I think if possible, at the commission meeting after the next. So that
County commission meeting?
No, at
Our commission meeting.
at your commission meeting. And the 74,000 actually dropped down to 69.
Yes.
So we would amend that down, but that's the one item that right now It's somewhat time sensitive.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, just a question. I ask this question every time, so I want to make sure everyone who's new in the meetings can hear it. We all understand. So if we agree to the timeline, which, sorry, Ms. Obitz, I think it's the vote on internal would be the 7th?
Yes, and that,
Tentative.
tentative, yeah.
So if we agree on that date, and if we
That's
wanted
nice.
to add something to that list, the process for a commissioner adding it to the list would be on the day of the meeting to recommend including it, or would it be, do you have another way in which we would do that?
Mayor Pro Tem,
Commissioner? City manager.
So Commissioner, I think that that is completely up to your discretion. It's been kind of wide open. Today, you could request that. And at any time, as you're working your way through whatever an internal or external split may be and wherever your additional priority lies. So I would anticipate too that if there are additional requests, and I expect that there will be, it may require that we take additional time to refine numbers and come back to you. So with this time frame, it's a snapshot in time. We may extend it depending upon the discussions that you have.
If I might just follow up with Tim. So from your perspective, in order to make sure we've noticed and given everything properly, would it be your preference that we indicate prior to the 7th things that we will move forward? Would that be a preferred way of doing it so that it can be included for consideration?
Mayor Pro Tem Commissioner Reed, yes, I do think that would be an ideal situation. I understand during that, just to put on the record, there have been many things talked about already. For anybody that has been following this at all, there are many things already on the table. So notice has been given several times. However, to make it clear at the point where you're going to make a decision, it is ideal to announce it ahead of time so that people are prepared to be there at the time that you will be considering it. But again, just for the record, many things have been discussed and have been on the record so far for discussion for a final decision at whatever time you announce, which right now is discussed to be November.
I'm so close to done with my
Okay.
bill. So if I'm a Mayor Pro Tem, so can we get agreement, or is it appropriate for us to get agreement amongst ourselves to commit to the 7th in order that we can prepare? Do we want to decide on that date, or are we not there yet?
I guess, I don't know if you were planning to respond, but
Well,
Commissioner
my
Logan.
question sort of relates to that. So I better scoot up here. So the idea, I guess we're gonna have to individually bring those initiatives that we're gonna support forward to this meeting on the 7th. Is that accurate? Otherwise, if we were to collectively do that, I'm assuming we would have to have a meeting to collectively discuss that. So am I understanding this correctly?
so one thing I would offer, I think that vote was initially for internal. And I think, so this is what I would say. Commissioner Logan's comments earlier in the meeting, and I think what Commissioner Reed's alluding to right now, I think there are various other internal projects that many on the commission are interested in that are not on this top funding request list. So I wonder if on the 7th, if there are items on this initial list that we can agree to, but that does not preclude bringing forward some of those other additional items that have been discussed in many meetings, but I think a lot of that also will overlap with what does this application process look like? Because I think there are some items that were particular groups included in their letters of interest that maybe we want to refine the application process so I mean, there's, I think you're gonna get to this, but the consideration of if an item is for public property, or City of Helena property, should that be an internal request, not an external request? I think that's a really legitimate discussion, and I think that probably will change the kind of applications we get. And I would hate to be in a position where we are not able to fund some projects because we voted too early or said, here's the cutoff date for any internal spending.
Yeah, and
City manager.
Mayor Pro Tem, commissioners, I think that's right. And this process is being held in a public venue, whether we're talking about it in this meeting or at the city commission meeting. Even in this meeting, if there's consensus that you want us to do additional work and have a project, we'll do that. I don't think we have to wait to the city commission chambers. But when we ask for formal approval of funding, then we'll put together a resolution and bring that to a city commission meeting. Have a public hearing.
So if I'm understanding correctly, we could do a meeting on the 7th where some of the items are approved, some others are discussed, and then the external moves forward and everybody feels comfortable with doing something on the 7th. Yeah.
Yes.
I
think so.
And Mayor Pro Tem, I just add that I want you guys to know that this item will stay on the administrative agenda until we're done.
That's good.
For better or worse. Commissioner Shirtliff, do you have anything that you want to offer before we give it back to Amanda after hijacking her presentation? All right, well, we cannot hear Commissioner Shirtliff, so we'll just let Amanda continue and then pick back up when you've completed.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So,
Sorry, my bad.
so the now that we've alluded to this several times, I'll just review the city manager recommendations that have come forward so far. My apologies, we did not learn about the new number for the second floor of the Law and Justice Center until after this was already put into Novus. So what you're looking at or what you have in your packet will still say 74,000. I've adjusted my presentation to show 69 because math on the fly in front of a public audience is not my strong suit. So I wanted to make sure I had appropriate figures for you. So we do have the ERP system software. For those that are not familiar, the ERP system is our finance HR mega software that we use at the city that has been partially funded already. This would cover the gap, the overlap of when we are implementing the new system and still have to pay on the old system. So that covers that. So the departments will not have to pay for both at the same time. The police department has put in a request for computer-aided dispatch and record management system. The Civic Center through the Parks, Recreation and Open Lands Department has a request in for $479,720. That is the remaining amount that is requested for the new HVAC system, which would allow that facility to be open and available more months out of the year than it is right now. It is already partially funded through grants and others. And then there are two community facilities projects that we have spoken with the county about, and they are already queued up to split. So the Mount Helena radio building was hit by lightning earlier this summer. That building needs to be replaced. Right now, the request is for $25,000 from the city and $25,000 from the county to replace that. And then the second floor of the Law and Justice Center, Criminal Justice Services and some other county departments will be moving into that space, creating space in the atrium for our police department to expand. That total right now is $69,000. That was the piece that we had in initially as $74,000. So that's been adjusted. So that brings the subtotal of the manager recommended priorities to be $1,823,720. So if we are doing our math, then that leaves a balance for allocation. Should the commission, which you have mentioned in the past, a request to keep $1.6 million back as a contingency, that would bring the balance to $3,263,280. Should you choose to move forward with the internal allocations as recommended. So moving into the external process, as I mentioned earlier, we did open up a letter of intent to apply process to gauge interest in this, what this funding could be used for outside of the city. We had really excellent participation and received 43 letters of intent to apply from 41 organizations. So we had 2 organizations that applied for 2 different projects. The LOI process total requests is north of $15 million, almost $16 million. Again, just to remind us from our math from the last screen, right now, if we move forward with internal allocations, we have roughly $3.2 million. And we had a really great variety of letters of intent to apply. Projects included capital construction, we had programming and staff support, as well as some great events that are held in the community that are looking for support, and some property acquisition for some nonprofits in town. And I'm not going to go deep into detail. You will have received in your packets the 367 pages of the full applications and letters of intent from those organizations. We are very grateful to all the organizations that participated in that process. Really exceptional projects came forward through that. Per the commission's request, we have drafted some potential parameters. I think that this will be really helpful not only for our organization, but also for external organizations. It was really wonderful from an idea generation perspective to have the LOI, but we also want to make sure we're honoring everyone's time and making sure that the types of projects that the commission is interested in are the ones that will be moving forward through the external process. So myself and Director Danielson took a shot at making some parameters. These are draft. You are welcome to adjust as you see fit. These are based again off of discussions that we've had with the commission throughout this process, trying to glean from you the things that we felt like you thought were important to move forward.
Mayor Pro Tem, commissioners. One of the processes I'd ask you to think about as we work our way through the remainder of this presentation is, if there are criterias, we went out for letters of interest. Those aren't applications, so that you can gauge what need is out in the community. And within certain categories, whether it's public health and safety or whatever you choose to make a priority, then that puts us in a position to follow up with certain organizations who've submitted a letter of interest without asking 41 organizations to completely fill out an application, which is going to be much more detailed than the letter of interest.
Thank you, Manager Burton. So the parameters that we are proposing at this point, we are suggesting that programs and projects be located within the city limits. We understand that obviously Helena is more of a metro area. We have a huge daytime population of folks that live outside city limits and come and use our services, live, work, shop in the city limits. That said, the county did go through a process with their ARPA funds as well, funding projects outside of the city limits. We figured that this would be the best way to focus our limited resources. We're recommending that these funds go to eligible nonprofits, that funds not be dispersed to, and this is our legalese language that's included in most of our agreements. We do have established relationships and have funded programs, for example, that are religiously based. But the funding, for example, cannot go toward promoting or soliciting on behalf of a political belief or a religious belief. You can't promote or solicit for tobacco products, alcohol, pornography, avoidance or termination of pregnancy, or advocating for violence or discrimination against any individuals. We received several requests that were from outside organizations for requests to improve city property. In our estimation, we view that as an internal request, either through the capital improvement plan, so projects that could go through that process, or projects that could be vetted, studied, and brought forward from our departments on behalf of those groups that use those facilities. Then lastly, and this was generated from conversation that has happened with the commission. Obviously funds, this is a one-time only fund that we have available with the city. And so we're looking for programs and projects that provide long-term community impact. We could take this a step farther and say that we would not be looking for backfill for existing operating and personnel expenses. We understand that there has been some concern from commissioners in the past that we would be setting up an organization to have to seek funding elsewhere moving forward. And there was some hesitancy to do that, so we included that as well. The other thing that's not included on this, I do apologize, but we want to make sure that these funds don't languish. The city also statutorily has to make sure that we are not maintaining general fund dollars over a certain amount. So we want to make sure that we get these dollars out the door and put to good use. So we are advocating for a commitment of funds from outside organizations by 2024 and spent by 2026. So that is in line with the original ARPA funding request, even though because this is general fund savings, because of how we submitted for these funds, we are not necessarily beholden to that, but we want to make sure we set a time frame for this money to be spent.
And if I can also add to that, Mayor Pro Tem Commission, one of the other, items with some of the applications that we looked at and funding and expending by a certain time frame is to award a grant to somebody and then have them sit on it for a period of time. They could potentially be earning interest income that the city could be earning to use toward other projects as well. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Thank you, Director Danielson. In addition to these parameters, the commission has requested that we bring forward some priorities to workshop. Again, these were generated from past conversations that we've had and general buckets that we felt like the commission had interest in. So we have brought two of them forward for your consideration. One is critical programs and projects that benefit vulnerable populations and on public safety projects. You would be welcome to add, change, adapt, whatever you would like. Again, we would be looking for the commission to adapt or adopt these priorities so that we would know moving into the external application process where the commission is at.
I'm going to briefly jump in for Commissioner Reed because I know she has to hit the road soon.
Yes, just if you don't mind, a quick question. When you say public safety, and it's not the city's definition of public safety. Can you tell me a little bit about how you envision public safety from external actors? What was your thought there?
Sure.
So I one of the, I don't, at this point, it's fairly wrong, but if it addresses a public health or, you know, a public safety issue within the city, that's a program that could address to reduce the risk for that, that could potentially be a priority that you want to set on the program reference.
Thank you. And
Again, these are just recommendations or suggestions.
Super helpful.
Of priorities that you as a commission will eventually determine how you want to set those priorities.
Thank you. I think I was not sure of public health where it fell, so I was hoping to hear a bit more about that. I would personally recommend that we include the word health in health and safety. Just public safety to me right now says fire and police.
Right.
And so understanding how we mean that externally, I think is helpful. I do have to excuse myself, but I'll be back online momentarily. So thank you all for coming out and for these applications, and to everybody for the presentation. I would be a little box.
We'll see you on Zoom.
So the direction that we're looking for today from the commission is what, if any, internal projects you would like us to move forward for the 7th or later. Again, this is a fluid process. Does the commission feel comfortable moving forward with holding back the $1.6 million contingency that was discussed? And then how does the commission feel about the parameters and priorities that we've put forward? We're open to discussion, feedback.
Great. Thank you for that presentation. I think we'll open up for commission discussion now. And Commissioner Reed, we will hold off on any consensus gathering until you are on Zoom. We'll just have some discussion too fast. City manager, do you want to add anything before we jump into that?
Mayor Pro Tem, at this point, no, I think we'll just address some questions that you have and listen to what you have to say.
Commissioner Logan or Commissioner Shirtliff, any comments?
I'll defer that online.
Your sound, we cannot hear you. It says you're on mute, or not on mute, but I wonder if your audio is connected.
It's all Danae's fault.
So one thing that I might offer while we're working out those technical difficulties, I really appreciate some of the parameters that you've offered, and had similar thoughts, especially as I started going through those letters of intent. I think I'd just like to preface my comments. I'm very grateful to everyone in the community for submitting those letters. I think in Helena, we sometimes forget, we are very much unlike other communities. There's over 400 nonprofits in our community, which is a lot more than many others that are double our size. But we do a lot of really good work, not just in the city of Helena, but around the state. I think the need is great. And this will actually be helpful for us when we occasionally have folks approach the city and say, what projects do people need help with? And there was one sort of emerging philanthropist that had reached out to me this morning and said, can I get a copy of that document? I'm interested to see what the need is. So I think that just having this as a public record is going to be really helpful moving forward as well. One bucket that I would be interested in, or priority that I would be interested in adding, is maybe improve quality of life. I think there are a number of projects that maybe don't fit into those two buckets, but it is in the interest of the commission to really be looking at some of the ways that we do improve the quality of life for our citizens. We do have some really emergent issues that these funds will help deal with. But I think that it shouldn't stop us from also pursuing some of those other activities and projects that do, make your life richer and our citizens' lives richer. One thing that I would like to also see us consider adding is a requirement for 990s or at least one 990. I think that probably goes without saying, but for the public record. And then some specific language about, and Amanda alluded to this, but really that these funds are not to supplant an organization's current budgets for various programs or projects, but really this is an opportunity to change the trajectory in a particular area and an opportunity to be innovative in supporting our community. I think those are kind of my big points as of right now. I will say the one piece that I was a little disappointed about is that an issue that we continue to get so many comments on at the commission level, and I think there's been a lot of discussion locally, the population of folks who, and this was alluded to in many of the applications, that those who lack housing, his 150% increase, I think, in the last 3 years. We get so many comments about how we are supporting or what we are doing to help support organizations that house people who are currently unhoused. I didn't see any specific program or project that would address some of the issues that we get the most comments about, specifically emergency housing for single men. And I think that is a gap that it would be great if we could figure out a way to do that. Obviously, the city is not in any position to start a shelter, run a shelter, but we are in a position right now to help with these one-time funds, maybe solve some of those issues, or close some of those gaps. And it's one of the things that we get comments about, at least once a week, many times a lot more from people over the community. So just want to put that on the public record. I think that we have Commissioner Shirtliff's sound fixed. So Commissioner Shirtliff, if you have comments, please go ahead.
Is it working?
It is. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you to everybody there, and thanks for your patience with my technical difficulties. I can't thank the folks in our community enough for 43 applications is incredible. I know when the last time we all sat together in that room, we only had 4 applications. And so that just shows that, we are the nonprofit capital of our great state, and we had a lot of nonprofits, a lot of interesting ideas. I agree. It was thought provoking, as Ms. Zopitz said. I believe, I was really curious what we were going to do at first, and then it was really nice to be able to see where the community wanted us to go. I agree with Commissioner Reed to health in terms of public health on one of those criteria. I think that's something that I think we should consider, as well as I do like the idea of what Commissioner Dean said about having a quality of life. I think there's some things we could put in there as well. I do know that our funds are limited. It's 3.2 million, almost 3.3 million. That's a lot of money that could go really quick. According to all those 43 applications, that's 15 million that could go, 15.7 million that could go just like that. But I think the timeline that we were given, I think allows us some time to read or reread through those applications, give them some those letters of interest, give them some consideration, kind of do our own thinking, but also too allows us to have that discussion, but also too, we've got an internal list to consider, which I might have an item or two I'd like to add, but again, I'd hate to take away from the external or the citizens of Helena and their choices. I do thank our group, our staff for putting this list together. I look forward to hearing if there are any recommendations from the city manager, like you did with the internal list. I've kind of started my own list of things that I think we need. I think we're starting to see some patterns, whether it's with homelessness or with housing folks, land acquisition, etc. I think we're starting to see some patterns, and I think that will show us where the where we need to kind of put our money where our mouth is. With that, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Commissioner Shirtliff. Commissioner Logan.
Thank you. First of all, well, as always, thank you all for the continued work on this. And one of the specific asks that I think I heard this afternoon was the contingency. Totally comfortable with that, just for the record. I'm also comfortable with not sure I'm comfortable calling them buckets, but I guess we can go with that. But the as lined out in the presentation there, and I'm fine with Commissioner Reed's adding health to safety. I think it's hand in hand. I'm gonna say I'm okay with Mayor Pro Tem's quality of life bucket. I might add some color to that from the standpoint of maybe we ought to think a little bit about economic development, possibly in terms of quality of life. Not something we've discussed a lot, but I know a lot of businesses had some pretty hard times the last couple of years. And so, you know, if there's some support that we can give to help that, whether it's, well, to help that or to help future development, I guess I'd be open to that. So one thing that's going to be of interest to me, prior to getting, maybe I better say, you know, I'm comfortable with the internal requests. As I said earlier, I kind of beat myself up that I did not advocate more for the above ground infrastructure. And I don't know if that's discussion that we can have as time moves on. You know, I think the representatives from NMTech pointed out a couple of pretty significant ones. And when you go to talking about like a bridge over Centennial or over Henderson, I think that's going to be a little bit more than, well, that's going to be a fair bit of money. So, you know, if we can get some clarity on that, I think that might be a good use. That Centennial Trail is something that's been in the work for a long time. And the bridge and other aspects of Centennial Trail have been, we've heard a lot about from the public when ARPA first came to town. So certainly a consideration there, as well as the safe routes to schools, as they mentioned. One thing I am probably going to bring back relative to internal requests, and I'm again a little hard on myself for not advocating for it more, was a couple $100,000 for the purchase of a wildland. We lost essentially a pretty significant piece of response apparatus for the Helena Fire Department, and I know they have contingency, or they have, you know, the opportunity to fill that gap short term, but the long term prospects of getting that piece of equipment are dependent upon, let's say, an assistance to firefighters grant, or how the insurer is going to take care of that loss. And so there's nothing sure, but there is certainty with the need for a type 6 fire engine. So that you'll be probably seeing that among other things from me as we get closer to the 7th. Another thing that's important to me is that this is one-time money, and that those requests that are made that by those organizations, they're gonna be self-sustaining beyond the end of when the money runs out. And that there's sort of this proven or demonstrated concept of how they're gonna continue on beyond the expenditure of this money, and that, you know, chances of them coming back to us and to the taxpayers of Helena are low, because there's a lot of need within our city budget. So those are some concerns that I have at this point. And again, appreciate all the external organizations for the interest expressed, and clearly demonstrates a lot of need, and there are going to be some tough discussions. So thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Commissioner Logan. Don't believe we have Commissioner Reed yet. One note that I just really briefly did have as well, I think it would be, and I don't know if this is, I'd be interested to hear what other commissioners think. I wonder if we want to include a question or stipulation that, or maybe just a question, would these funds be the major or sustaining funding piece for whatever the project is? I think that there are some projects that we saw in the letters that, you know, it's this money and that's it. But I think it would be helpful. I would love for us not to be the major funder for a lot of these larger ones if they are applying, because I just worry, I do worry about the sustainability pieces. So I don't know if, you know, staff would have thoughts about how to word into that, or other considerations, but that's something that came to mind was, and on various grant committees that I've been on, I've learned that when you are the major funder for a particular project, even if it is supposed to be one time only, you know, it's great if it's a proven concept, but which we want to promote, you know, proven concepts. But as Commissioner Logan noted, I mean, normally we only have about $36,000 to help support community organizations every year. And that's what it'll go back to after this fiscal year, most likely. So I think those are just some realities that we need to keep in mind. So I guess with that,
Mayor Pro Tem,
yes, please.
if I could ask a clarifying question. Commissioner Logan, you intended to include economic development as a component of the improved to quality life, or as a separate
Yeah, I
item?
don't want to necessarily to get too many buckets like that, I suppose. So that idea of economic development, I think, could probably hold into.
I wonder if we could maybe do like a including but not limited to economic development, recreation, the arts. There's more that would be on that list, obviously, but those are the big things that are coming to mind that we read.
Yeah, for Tim, I think that kind of fits the what improvements of lifestyle.
Yep.
Discussion you have.
I'm not necessarily advocating for another area.
So I wonder before, and I'm sorry, I am stalling because I would like Commissioner Reed to, but
I'll help you stall, Mayor Pro Tem, if that's all right. So question, and I think I may have just lost it. Oh, yeah, question for the manager and Ms. Opitz is this what you're wanting? Is this the kind of feedback you're wanting, or are you wanting something more detailed about specifics? Like, we've got any number of external applications. You want more detail about what we're good with and not moving on, or?
Thank you, Commissioner. Manager, unless you'd like to take that one, I can take that. Yes, mostly is the answer to that. I think we would be interested, we do have deadlines related to public notice and in our Novus deadlines. The 7th is the next full commission meeting. We will be bringing items forward for potentially for you to vote on. I do want to make sure that you have enough time. If you are looking for some of these other items that you've alluded to that you want to bring forward, if you need more information or you want to get that information to us now so that we can make sure that we have that either language for you to include as a motion or that we include that in the initial resolution, that we would need to get clarification on that now if we wanted to move forward on the 7th, only because we would need to have that information into Novus by the middle of next week. So, but we can move that out, of course. It does not have to be the 7th. That's just when the next commission meeting will be held.
Okay, we'll go to the city manager and then Commissioner Reed.
So in that vein, even if you had consensus today on a couple of items that are internal with deadlines, we could bring those forward. It doesn't preclude you from any further discussion on internal items. And we can then continue to develop the criteria by which you request full applications for external items. And those balances will work our way through those as you make decisions.
Some follow up if I may.
Sure.
So the spreadsheet of external requests, are you wanting to move on, don't move on today, or
I think
is it this more internal that you're wanting the specificity on?
Yes, what's listed as city internal funding requests. The external, we'll take the criteria that you're developing today, and then we'll report back to you at the next administrative meeting on where that shakes out after this discussion.
Very helpful, thank you.
Commissioner Reed?
Thank you. So I apologize. I missed a few minutes there, but I think I heard that we are supposed to, if there's something on internal, we wanted more information on, we should say that now. Is that accurate?
Yes, I think so.
Sure. I think that we can, I don't think this is the only opportunity. I think that let's start it. My preference is that we deal with these internal potential consensus items, and then we spend the next, I think it probably depends on the application process, but I am hesitant to make decisions about some of these additional internal decisions until we have the external application really maybe moving, because I think that it's all the same pot of money, and we'll be weighing, the pros and cons of one over the other. So if that helps where your train of thought's going.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. It does and it doesn't, just because nothing is simple in these discussions. I guess maybe we could agree amongst ourselves, if there's something I would like more information on related to an internal that didn't make it on the manager's priority list, would you prefer that we say that we are going to ask for more information on that now, or that we simply request that information for the future? Do we have a preference amongst ourselves on how to handle that?
Go ahead.
Mayor Pro Tem, I think the earlier that we can get a request for additional analysis and information on a project that's internal, the sooner we can go to work on responding to that question.
Okay.
That answer your question, Commissioner Reed?
Yeah, yes. And so I guess what I will say for now, and this is not the final say on this matter, but I would request, if possible, additional information on the Centennial Trail project that was originally listed at $120,000 by Parks and Rec. I appreciate Mr. Marr's brief answer today, but if we could get more information about what that $120,000 represents, I would appreciate that for future discussions.
And if it's okay, Commissioner Reed, I would, with the addition of, and this, I'm looking at Director Knopke, I know that if we could make any way that we could find out about potential costs of a bridge in that full discussion, I think would be helpful.
Yes.
I understand we might be early for that.
We can get a ballpark figure of what we're looking at.
I think anything we could get would be really helpful.
Commissioner Logan.
Well, I was having a little trouble with my internet, but I finally got it to work. So I'm looking at the part of Amanda's presentation with internal funding requests. We got 5. So it's the finance, software, police, the CAD, the civic center's HVAC, city county, non-Helena radio building, and the law and justice center. Gotta say I'm comfortable with all of those. And a fire truck. I'm just gonna throw that out there, so if we could get maybe some additional on that. Because I do, that was a completely unexpected loss, and I think it's an important piece of equipment, and I'm mad at myself that I didn't bring that forward more assertively, I suppose.
And if we could get, if we have any information on the insurance.
Commissioner Dean, excuse me, Mayor Pro Tem Damon, Commissioner, it's in the process. They haven't received, a full recovery amount from the adjuster. How the insurance works is they have to wait for then you to go out and price a new piece of equipment before they'll make a final decision on what they're going to pay the city.
Pro Tem, if the commission's agreeable, perhaps what we can do is report back with what the cost of that replacement is. And we can work on the insurance stuff off to the side.
Yep.
Thank you.
Commissioner Reed.
Sorry. Yep, Mayor Pro Tem, thank you. I appreciated that Commissioner Logan indicated his general support or consensus for the items listed as manager preferences, and I would also indicate my support for those. I think it's 5 items listed. So I had not made that clear, and I just wanted to make sure I did that. Thank you.
Great. Commissioner Shirtliff.
I concur with Commissioner Reed on those 5 as well.
Excellent. And I too am very much support those 5 items. I think for anyone who maybe, and we do have a lot of members of the public who are listening in online and in the room, there's a handful of these that maybe are not self-explanatory. ERP system, I think probably not many people know what that means. The city this past year with our CARES general fund reimbursement. So that was the first and second COVID response dollars that we received from the federal government. We allocated 1.5 million of those to a new finance system for the city. That sounds like a lot of money. It is a lot of money, but this is a system that literally touches every single department within the city. Right now, our employees are having to, I would say probably literally thousands of hours a year of workarounds because our system is over 20 years old and not able to do like basic financial processes. Would you say that's a layman's explanation of why this is so critical?
Thank you, Commissioner Dean. I could go on for hours about why we need a new system, but I think you summed it up nicely.
Okay, excellent. Truly will revolutionize the kind of service that we can provide to our citizens when we have a financial system that works. And then the other one, the CAD and RMS system, that is a computer aided dispatch and records management system. The last couple of years, we've asked a lot of our police department in terms of data to understand what they do and where we sit. And all of that data had to be collected and evaluated literally by hand because our again, another system that is, I think, 20 years old now, over 20 years old, and cannot pull the reports that we need to be a responsive community that is continuing to grow and modernize, as well as respond to the public and to emergency situations in a timely manner, because technology is not where it needs to be for us to provide those very, very essential services. And City Manager, go ahead.
Mayor Pro Tem, I just add one caveat to that, that's a 50-50 partnership with the county, and the county is already committed to their.
Thank you for that addition. I think the rest are pretty self-explanatory. And we've discussed them in past meetings too, which you can find all of them on YouTube. So with that, I think we have full consensus from the commission on those 5 items. At this point, I would like to open it up for public comment. I anticipate we'll have quite a bit. So I think we'll start with those in the room and then move to online public comment. So is there any public comment on ARPA funding? And what we're going to do is we're going to start on this side of the room and just move clockwise around. So sorry. Go ahead.
With my choice of chair. Thank you very much, Mr. Pro Tem, commissioners, members of the audience. Peter Strauss, I'm here today with the Great Divide Ski Patrol Foundation. We're obviously not a City of Helena operation, but a lot of the folks who live in the City of Helena, including myself, enjoy Great Divide. I don't know where you want me to go. I'll give you the basics of what we're talking about. We need to build a new clinic building for the ski patrol. The ski area is required to have a clinic to operate. The ski patrol is required to be separate organizations from the for-profit ski hill. The clinic that the hill provides doesn't necessarily have to be a good one. It just has to be existing. We currently have 135 square feet to treat anybody who comes in, whether we bring them in or they walk in. And literally the building is falling down. We've used spit, baling wire, and duct tape to keep it up. There's no question we have to replace it. We have a budget of about $125,000 for a new building. It's not a palatial building, it's 20 by 40. It'll provide us space, 400 square feet of treatment space, as well as 400 square feet of training. We're going to put a fair amount of sweat equity into this as well. We've got what I think is a good deal with the health. They're going to provide us a long-term lease on private land. They'll do the dirt work, they'll put it in the foundation, they'll provide septic, electric, and water. We build the building and stock it. Right now, we're required to purchase our own medical equipment and supplies and provide for training anyway. They can't do that for us. We're required to based on the federal not-for-profit charitable organization charter that Ski Patrol operates in. We will build the building, we'll stock it, we will lease it back to them on a long-term basis for them to use it as a clinic. So we retain ownership. They will take care of the insurance, the maintenance, and taxes on the building. So the request that we've made for $50,000, and I'll take less if I have to, is a significant amount. Our operating costs run about $25,000 a year. We have current fundraising programs that fund that entirely. So yes, this is a significant part of our building budget, but it is not a sustaining aspect of our business. All of us are volunteers. None of us are paid. In 25 words or less, that's probably more than 25 words. That's my pitch.
Thank you.
Is that what you were looking for?
That, just public comments, whoever people would
Okay,
like to
so
host that.
give us 2 minutes.
They,
Short and to the point, eh? Thank you.
absolutely.
Available for any questions should anybody have.
Great, thank you. I think you were under 3 minutes, but we like to keep the public comment at 3 minutes each. I should have made that note.
Time.
No, we are gonna have right down the line. Any further public comment on this side of the room? Thank you. All right. Seeing none, will any public comment, please, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Christine Roberts. I'm the executive director for Life Services here in Holland. So we submitted a letter of intent. I just first off want to say thank you for recognizing and acknowledging the important role of all nonprofits in our community. We provide housing and lifestyle development for young adults, men and women 18 to 23. So we would welcome the opportunity to be able to apply for funding. The details are in there, so we won't go into those right now. But would love the opportunity to help the young adults in our community have a safe place to live and learn how to live independently and thrive.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'll take the opportunity as well. My name is Amy T. Garden. I'm the executive director of Tri-County Better Safe Working Group. Tri-County has been around for nearly 40 years working with private forested landowners doing wildfire mitigation on their properties. In the last couple of years, we've been working in the community in Helena. We received a FEMA grant to do work in the south central east part of the community. We're proposing to start a new program in the city limits to do wildfire risk assessments. Mount Helena wildfire this summer was another wake-up call. We've had a lot of wake-up calls, but I think people become complacent and feel that the fire department's going to come, the story bomber's going to lay some paint, and they'll be okay. But it's time that homeowners wake up. And one of the best ways to wake up to that is to have their home assessed for the home ignition zone and walk around their property with a professional that knows what the risks are, points out the ways that they can do mitigation. And mitigation doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be big. It's just understanding those little things. And then together, neighbors working with each other. These are all the ways that Helena can become a more fire adaptive community. We also will do a variety of general outreach, including evacuation preparedness. So I think this would be a great partnership with the fire department, as well as the county and a lot of other departments. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on this side of the room?
Yes, please. Good evening. I'm Jill Steely. I'm the CEO of Pureview Health Center. We are at the federally qualified health center here in Helena, East Helena, and Lincoln, Montana. We are here to serve our community's most vulnerable populations. We do medical, dental, mental health. We have pharmacies, and we do take all insurances, but we also offer everything on a sliding fee scale, and no one has to pay if they are not able to pay. I just want to say that our letter of intent was for us to expand our mental health services. I think that people are really struggling right now. I know that we are seeing way more in our mental health services than in our primary care or dental services. And it's never been like that before. Primary care used to be what we saw the most people in. Pureview mostly funded the COVID response that you saw out at the fairgrounds on our own. And that was almost 2 years of expenses that we were not expecting to have. And it really ate into our operational budget, and we experienced a loss for the first time last fiscal year. Even though we had received some ARPA funds of our own, those quickly went with the COVID response that we provided out there. And we are looking at a loss for this year as well. So I only say that because we want to keep providing the services that we provide, to the people that really, really need it. And we would greatly appreciate some funds to help with that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Chris Imony, Vice President for Institutional Advancement at Carroll College, Mayor Pro Tem Commissioners. It's a pleasure to be here. We're delighted to have been able to submit this letter of intent. We really feel like our story lends itself to a broader community partnership with Carroll College, and I think more particularly honing in on quality of life and economic benefit to businesses in the area. So we hope you earn the right for your further consideration. We look forward to coming back and talking further about that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, and I'm sure the title that you're all the most proud of, Landlords of Grand Street Theater. I am coming to you on one of my last days at Grand Street, Cal Poole with Managing Director of Grand Street Theater. If you look across the street, you'll notice that there's some shingles missing on your wonderful institution over there. And according to our lease agreement, y'all are responsible for the outside of the building. We're responsible for maintenance and improvements on the inside of the building. I've been directed to this avenue to secure funding or attempt to secure funding for our leaky roof. It is coming into the theater. We're noticing it during the performances. It's falling on the stage. It is yeah, I've got some additional details for that. That is our internal funding request. It's internal because it's a city-owned building, and that is the purview of the city to maintain responsibility for the roof. Our external funding request is about safety, and it's about safety inside the building. And it has to do with the support structure for our lighting equipment. It has to do with some egress issues that have been identified by the city as potential areas for improvement for the city to get to, but it's something that we think ARPA could be very helpful with in the short term. Thank you so much for all you do. I really appreciate this process and your work as commissioners.
Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, Jacob Kuntz, Helena Area Habitat for Humanity. I live at 941 Collins Street, across the street from Broadwater Elementary School, the problem area with safe pathways to school. I'm the guy on the front lawn yelling at parents. I don't have kids myself, but they let them out in the middle of the street. But the issue I'm actually here to talk to you about is Our Redeemer's Lutheran Church project. I'm here representing Helena Area Habitat for Humanity, the YWCA, Rocky Mountain, and the faith community, as well as Trust Montana, on a very important project to build some permanently affordable homes in Helena. It's very expensive to develop homes inside the city limits. That particular piece of land is very challenging to develop because of some requirements for development. That's becoming increasingly the issue, building inside the city limits. For-profit developer got hold of the land, they would build one-bedroom apartments there that would go for $1,500 to $1,700. That's forcing our working population outside the city limits and challenging the infrastructure of our small businesses. So this is about an economic issue. It's about an ethical issue related to the people living in our town who can't afford to live here or find safe, decent, affordable homes. So it's an inspiring project of several nonprofits that are working together along with the faith community to solve a core and fundamental community need. Thank you for your consideration on that. We look forward to finding out more about the process and hopefully submitting an application.
Thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and move online, and I will first look at the city manager who has a comment.
Mayor Pro Tem, I can wait until after public.
Okay, any public comment online?
Mayor Pro Tem, Commissioners, first I have Chantel Schaefer.
Okay, Schaefer, go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the council. My name is Chantel Schaefer, and I am the president and CEO of Leadership Montana. I'm joining you from the comfort of my home on the Upper West Side in Helena. And thank you so much for this process. That's all I want to say is thank you. The vantage that I have as an organization that serves the entire state of Montana, I've watched these ARPA funds delivered through communities across the state. And I will say that your process is very intentional and very inclusive. And for that, very much appreciated. I look forward to hopefully an opportunity to present to you our proposal more formally. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Next, public comment.
Mayor Pro Tem, next I have Kelly from Exploration Works. I'm not going to attempt Kelly's last name. I
I
apologize.
believe it's Poswitz.
Yes, it is Posowitz. Can you hear me all right?
Oh, we can. Thank you.
Great. Yes, my name is Kelly Posowitz. I'm with Exploration Works here in Helena, Montana. We are the local science center serving this community, and we serve over 40,000 people per year, and that is growing at an incredibly rapid rate. And so we are proposing to expand our classroom space and our exhibit space at Exploration Works. And the idea is to enclose current space that we have, which is on our balcony level, which right now is unusable space. It is unsafe space. The floor is leaking. And basically it's been closed off for many years. So we'd love to convert that into more space to serve more families and serve more kids. Our after school classes, our programs, everything are maxed out. So we'd love to serve more kids. They're our future workforce and they are our future. And so we really appreciate this opportunity, and thank you to the City of Helena for including all the nonprofits in this process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, next I have Cher Justo.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and commissioners. Can you all hear me?
We can.
Oh, great. Well, first of all, I'm coming to you from the comfort of my home because I'm quarantining so that none of you get sick today from visiting with me.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, it's that time in our history. So I just want to thank you, first of all, for this really thoughtful and community engaged process. It is, I loved reading through the list of all of the different proposals and to really see how, you know, people are thoughtfully trying to get at the needs that are deeply held within our community. And this is a one-time chance to put some good solid funding toward that. Just to quickly explain our project a little bit, we've been working on this concept of a historic preservation corps that can go out to help disadvantaged communities, buildings that are at risk, putting things back onto the tax roll, offering training to young people, veterans, women, underserved kinds of communities for a long time. And we have a partner now, the Student Conservation Association, that's a national conservation group that does historic conservation corps across the nation. And we would just be the model pilot project to start a strictly preservation corps that would be focused in Montana. They have one kind of fledgling going in Massachusetts, and they have a very small one in Delaware. So for us to be able to occupy this space to generate not just an educational program, but a program that for us was intentional because it's about workforce training. It's about new skills for people as we emerge from the COVID era. And it's about, you know, creating a new program in Helena that could really address unmet needs that are not just in the Helena proper area, but, you know, kind of statewide. And so we're excited about it, and we hope that we would get a chance to tell you more and for you to see how this can unfold on the ground and just really be a wonderful force for a positive future. And thanks again for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Next, Mayor Pro Tem, I have Renee Bauer.
Ms. Bauer, please.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak real briefly. I appreciate the process that you guys have done. I think that it's been excellent and allowed us all opportunity to kind of get more information about our programs and what we would like, at least in your hands, so you guys can learn a little bit. Our program has partnered with Good Samaritan Ministries on our application. We want to utilize the money to create more emergency temp shelter spaces so we can house more people. We are the only programs in town that house single men. Right now, we actually have 3 dads with their children in shelter with us. So there's a huge need. It's something that really has not been addressed well in the community, and between Good Samaritan Ministries and our program, we realize that there's a lot of guys out there who have children who need shelter. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Is there any further public comment?
Mayor Pro
Okay.
Tem, I see no written public comment online.
Thank you. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Commissioners, I'm going to recommend that you table water and wastewater service line discussion until the next administrative meeting. Because I just think going past 6 o'clock at these meetings is asking a lot.
I would agree. Thank you. Commissioner Reed, do you have your hand up?
Sorry, super fast. I apologize. I had intended to additionally request additional information on the Grand Street roof project. I forgot. So thank you very much to Cal for reminding me of that.
Yes, and I actually think that we had Sheila and Tim, their antennas were going off during that public comment. So I will look to Sheila right now.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So the Grant Street Theater roof was on the original internal request list. I didn't, without our superintendent for facilities here, I'm not exactly sure of the critical nature of that, but it was on our list of internal funding requests.
Mayor Pro Tem, we'll bring that item back at our next administrative meeting with estimated costs and timeframes, et cetera.
Great. Okay.
I might just add,
Yes, Commissioner.
Mayor Pro Tem, apologies. We've got a couple of folks here that were hoping to hear this next item. I'm comfortable if there's consensus with the tabling, because I do hate to rush it, but this is clearly something that's important and probably warrants more time. So apologies for that.
Okay, great. Is there any other comments from commissioners? Okay, do apologize that we are, if there's consensus, we will move it to the next admin meeting. I think this is significant enough that I really do want folks to have an opportunity to fully flesh it out, but we do have an opportunity for any general public comment that we will move to now. So if you'd like to provide any public comment on that or any other topic here, we can do that now, and then we'll move to adjourn. So is there any public comment on any other item? Great.
I apologize, Mayor Pro Tem, I was slow. I do have a hand raised online, Dr. Gregory Thomas.
Great. Dr. Thomas.
Thank you, Honorable Mayor Pro Tem, esteemed commissioners, and excellent city employees. As a longtime Black Helena resident and owner of multiple businesses, I have questions about some of the positive comments I heard surrounding the real program participation. Following are two items I find to be good examples of my questions, and I would very much appreciate the commission assigning one or more city employees to follow up with me about these two items. Number one, in June 2020, this commission went on public record during a commission meeting promising to help bring about a series of public discussions in which commission members would only be allowed to participate as members of the public to talk about the issue of race in Helena and how those of us who are not white are, for example, impacted on a daily basis by microaggressions and other slights in our interactions with some white Helenans. If you need help from members of the public to help coordinate these events, I am willing to provide some of that help. Why have we still heard nothing over 2 years later? Number two, there was a significant amount of praise going recently to a local white firm known as CMS for their past work with the city and for recent awards of new work with the city related to human resources. Under the prior city manager, the Black-led organizational development division of my Black-owned management consulting firm produced two extensive proposal documents and subsequently had lengthy discussions with that prior city manager about how we would execute on those proposals for the city. To be clear, based on the public information available to us about CMS, the principals in our firm who would provide leadership and human resources-based services to Helena have over 75 years of combined experience, and also combined have written over 20 books on human resource topics germane to Helena, published by major publishing houses, not self-published. These same quote unquote minority leadership and human resource professionals have consulted with a very long and high profile list of similar sized cities, counties, and states that fill over 8 double-sided pages, single spaced with 12-point font. This list, by the way, includes, but is not limited to, engagements for state of Montana, as well as Lewis and Clark County. Additionally, each of our human resources principals, most of whom, by the way, are Black and female, also hold far more academic credentials and have far more extensive professional backgrounds than anyone at CMS. So the question is, how was it that we were not asked if we would like to participate or were otherwise invited to participate in any of these recent RFPs by Helena, if Helena claims to be so interested in being inclusive and equitable when a non-white is not only equally qualified as the white firm, but far more qualified than the white firm? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas. Is there any additional public comment on any items? Okay, any closing thoughts from any of the commission? Okay, really appreciate everyone's patience tonight. This was a long one, but I think a really helpful meeting. So greatly appreciate the patience and participation. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.